Thank you for joining us for today's conversation, Exploring Seed through StartOut. My name is Daniel Anzueto. I welcome all pronouns, and I serve as a Community Engagement Manager at StartOut. I'm excited to welcome you to today's event. If it's your first time attending one of our workshops, welcome. I know that StartOut's mission is to increase opportunity and success for LGBTQ+ entrepreneurs. I'm grateful to introduce our host for today's session, Maya Gowda, founder of Seed. The floor is yours, Maya.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Maya Gowda, and I'm excited to take you through something that is very close to my heart, which is known as SEED, or Students for Environmental Education and Discovery. SEED started with one simple idea that young people can make climate education engaging, empowering, and globally accessible. Over the next 40 minutes, I'll share how SEED began, what we've achieved, how we operate, and where we're headed next. So let's jump right in. So about SEED. SEED is a youth-led organization focused on educating students from kindergarten all the way up through high school about climate change. What makes SEED unique is how we simplify complex science into interactive lessons that kids actually enjoy learning from. Since we started, SEED has reached over 100,000 students, not just in South Floridian schools, but also around the world. We believe that real change begins in the classroom. If the next generation understands climate change early, they're better equipped to solve it later. Our reach has grown far beyond the US. We've worked with schools and organizations in Haiti, Cameroon, Uganda, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Togo, South Africa, Uruguay, and Bangladesh. Each of these countries brings its own unique environmental challenges, from droughts to deforestation, and SEED adapts its lessons to fit those realities. For example, in Uganda, we worked with teachers to design modules on how climate affects the exacerbation of mosquito-borne illnesses, while in Bangladesh, we focus more on rising sea levels. Seeing students in completely different parts of the world connecting over the same issue is one of the most inspirational parts about SEED. So now let's talk about how SEED actually works. So everything starts with our online platform, which makes climate education accessible anywhere. Teachers can download or stream lessons, and we also train volunteers to teach these same modules in person, especially in African schools where traditional classroom settings are very common. This hybrid model, online and in person, helps SEED scale efficiently while keeping it personal and local. So SEED has a variety of educational tools. Our curriculum is divided into 5 strands, each focusing on a different side of climate change. First, we cover the general impacts, which is about what climate change is, the science behind it, how it works, and why it matters. Then we explore the health impacts such as respiratory illness, heat stress, and infectious disease spread, such as mosquito-borne illnesses. We also dive into regional focuses. We have a curriculum based on climate change impacts in Africa, one on India, and right now we're working on one about climate change impacts in Uruguay. All of these lessons are very interactive and multilingual. SEED is available in 73 different languages, and that's how we make sure no student is left behind because of a language barrier. Everything SEED does ties directly into the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs for short. When we teach climate literacy, we're not just checking one box. We're actually advancing several goals. And those are quality education, climate action, good health and well-being, and sustainable communities. This framework helps us align our lessons with global sustainability standards, making SEED a bridge between local classrooms and international policy. Now let's shift to the business side of things. Because environmental awareness isn't just for scientists and students, it's also vital for companies too. Businesses that understand climate risk are more resilient. Whether it's risk management, product opportunity, or sustainable investment, climate literacy drives better decisions. For instance, a company that knows how changing weather patterns affect supply chains can plan smarter for the future. SEED encourages young people to think just like that, to see climate not only as a challenge, but as a catalyst for innovation and growth. SEED also ties directly with ESGs, which are the environmental, social, and governance standards. SEED teaches students what these standards mean in real-world terms, treating workers fairly, managing resources responsibly, and also tracking environmental performance. We also help them understand how ethics, sustainability, and profitability can coexist with one another. Our modules highlight how businesses can also align with the UN SDGs and make measurable positive impacts on communities while also relying on community perspectives as well. In SEED, we're trying to raise a generation that expects and builds accountability into the corporate world as well. So where are we headed next? SEED right now is developing a mobile app to take everything that we've learned online and make it even more accessible. The app will include quick, interactive lessons, global climate games, and action toolkits for students to start sustainability projects in their own schools or neighborhoods. So imagine this. Imagine a 12-year-old in South Africa and another one in Miami playing the same climate trivia game. And both of them are learning how their choices are affecting the planet and their respective communities. That's the kind of global connection that SEED wants to create. And we also want to highlight how SEED thrives on collaboration. We're always looking for volunteers, especially students who want to lead workshops or develop new lessons. We're also seeking app developers, partnerships with school boards, and social media experts who can help expand our reach. So if you're interested or even just curious, you can always reach us through our email or LinkedIn and Instagram. Every new person who joins helps us grow this movement one classroom at a time as we plant the seeds for change. Thank you so much for coming. And please let me know if you have any questions or thoughts about SEED.
Fantastic, Maya. Thank you so much for that. It was very fun to learn that this is a South Florida-based program. I'm from Miami, so it was really nice to see that represented. It's awesome. If anybody has any questions, feel free to either drop into the chat. You can also unmute and ask directly.
Maya, do you want to go over like an example of like what the game like looks like?
Sure, I can do that.
She's like, I always fall. She's like, so I want to start with 20.
Wait, I'll share my screen now. Okay, this is what like I have so far. It was created with like an AI database. Right now here you can just see the dashboard, and this is how potentially that the app will look like on like the homepage, and students can see, they can track how many educational modules they've completed, the quizzes they've taken, and how many actions they've completed. And then there will also be like an awards system, which will hopefully incentivize students to continue with the work that they're doing. And then the most interesting portion, I would say, about this app would probably be the game activity, which I hope really like attracts students to like download the app, and also for teachers to maybe use it in their classrooms as well. So students could click on like a different region and then answer different questions about climate change in those respective regions. So hopefully they can practice their knowledge about climate change, which would have already been presented in the interactive modules that they would have learned from within the app as well. So SEED wants to use this quiz format, but in an interactive game in order for students to actively recall the information that they're learning, and so that they can retain it better and hopefully develop a passion to learn more about this material and hopefully try to do something about it in the future.
That was fantastic, Maya. Do you want to go back to that main screen?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about how did this came about and what was your general interest in working on this?
Well, I've always wanted to develop an app like 4C because I thought it would be a really great way for students to like practice the information that they're learning. And I thought that the game would be a more fun way to do it. And I was just like learning from other apps like Duolingo, which have been extremely successful within the ed tech world. And I thought it would be a cool avenue for C to explore just because of how popular ed tech is becoming. And I thought Seed could possibly go into that pathway and hopefully reach more students than possible. I think this would be a great way to reach more students rather than just through presentations solely.
That's awesome. Definitely very engaging. Really awesome that it's having a global impact already. What do you see, in a year, 3 years, what's your hope for the program?
Hopefully, we've expanded to more schools in the US. I found difficulty in doing that within like the last few years. So hopefully I would be able to do that. And then hopefully I can also reach out to more schools and organizations internationally. Right now I have a very good like partnership with a university in Uruguay. So hopefully I can try to do more of those university partnerships because those seem to have like a very great impact. And hopefully if I can, develop this app, then I think we could reach more than like hundreds of thousands of students, which would be a great achievement for Seed.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, if you want to put in, oh, here we have a question. Thank you, Maya. Can you talk more about how do you create the curricula? Do you write different material for each topic based on the age of students?
Yes, I can definitely talk about that. Thank you for the question. So I created the curricula like throughout high school and like early like in college based on some of the environmental education that I've taken through schooling and also education that I've received from climate action organizations that I've worked with for the past couple of years. And I've also worked with a group of students from my school to help create the curricula. One of the most important parts when creating this curricula is making sure that it adheres to the next generation science standards, which are like the standard US educational standards. We make sure they comply with those so that it adds more credibility to the presentations. And we also try to determine topics that students would find very interesting and hopefully very engaging. And we also want to highlight topics that aren't really spoken about in typical environmental classes in high school. For example, a lot of students aren't really aware about the relationship between climate change and mosquito-borne illnesses, which is a very prevalent topic in many parts of the world, especially as global temperature is increasing, and that can be, very detrimental for tropical communities. So we try to highlight those complex issues, but in an easier format, so that students understand all the intricacies related to the climate crisis.
That's fantastic. I appreciate the intersectional approach. As a fellow South Florida native, I think some of the things that I've learned from organizations working on climate change as well are the impact of like climate gentrification, which is a whole new term that I had to learn, of the impact as rising seas are impacting the communities in Miami specifically, where most people like to pay more money to live on the coast are now flooding much more often without even any rain and are being forced into communities that have more stable bedrock and kind of spaces like that. I think it's interesting to see that impact that you're having in that intersectional approach as well.
Right. That's actually like an issue I'm also interested in. And there's also another relationship where a lot of businesses are trying to push out um, marginalized communities to the coastal areas so that they can, increase the profitability of their business and hopefully, maintain their business. But that's also another issue with climate gentrification, which is definitely impacting a lot of communities in Miami.
Fantastic. Well, would you mind putting either an email or website into the chat in case folks are interested in getting in contact with you to follow up and learn more about Seed?
Yes, I'll here. It's here like in this slide.
Sounds good. So folks, if you're interested in engaging, we see seedclimatelieracy@gmail.com. Make sure you follow at seed.youth and continue on with the progress that Maya's already been building. This is fantastic.
Thank you.
Perfect, y'all. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you all for joining us for this fantastic presentation. We'll be sure to share this out with our registrants and look forward to seeing the growth of seed.
Thank you.